Have you ever felt like you're living, but you're not really there? That the days pass as blurry scenes of a film that you did not choose to watch? That life, this silent and profound play, is being staged without its conscious direction. The truth, naked and raw, is that many of us walk as sleepwalkers, awake on the outside, asleep on the inside. But what if I told you there was a philosophy that could make you wake up? Stoicism is not just a collection of catchphrases or a cold, impassive lifestyle. It is, in essence, a silent revolution, a way of remembering, every day, that you are the author of your history, that there is a world within you waiting to be commanded with wisdom, presence, and intention. In this video, you will dive into 7 Stoic principles that not only inform, they transform. They are foundations capable of changing your thinking, feeling, and reacting to the world, to make your mind a temple instead of a battlefield. And before we start, I want to propose something new. Go to the comments and write the phrase, "Today I choose to wake up," not to show others, not to prove anything, but as a silent rite of commitment to what is most sacred. Your conscience awakens, because a life awakens, even in the midst of chaos, is always a life with direction. Let's get started. Number 1. The world you see is the world you create. Imagine a mirror, not of those hanging in the bathroom, but an invisible mirror that you carry inside you. It reflects the world not as it is, but as you see it. That mirror is your mind. And what it sees is not what is out there, it is what is in there. You wake up. The light goes through the cracks of the curtain. The cell phone vibrates with notifications. And in a second, your mind is already immersed in worries, comparisons, anxieties. The day has barely begun and already seems too big for what you feel inside. But what you may not realize is that the world has not done anything yet. What disturbs you is not the world, it is the way you interpret it. Marcus Aurelius understood this in the midst of war, politics, loss, and left us a legacy that few dare apply, that the quality of his life depends on the quality of his thoughts. You've experienced 2 almost identical days in content, but radically different in feeling? In one, everything seemed to work out. In the other, everything seemed wrong, even though it was practically the same. That's not bad luck. That's the mind that one day clears and the next obscures. Stoicism invites us to take over the reins of interpretation. It is not about repeating positive mantras or deluding ourselves with forced optimism. It is about internal vigilance. It is about understanding honestly what we are feeding within us. Because every thought is a seed, and sooner or later, it becomes a landscape. A Stoic does not seek to eliminate emotions. He seeks to understand their roots, to know when he is seeing the world with the eyes of fear, want, anger, and to have the courage to reposition the focus. That is why this philosophy is not an unreachable ideal. It is a daily training, an exercise of lucidity in the midst of noise. Imagine 2 people facing the same obstacle. One paralyses, feels wronged. The other acts, sees an opportunity there. What differentiates them? It is not the scene. It is the lens. It is the inner mirror that each one cultivates. And if you want to change the world in which you live, start cleaning this mirror. To think better is not to think beautiful. It is to think responsibly. It is to examine the judgments themselves, to question certainties, to reduce the weight of what does not matter, to choose, with conscience, what deserves space in your head. You don't need to control the world. You need to dominate yourself before the world. That is the real power. Because when you change the structure of thought, it also changes reaction, emotion, behavior, and inevitably changes destiny. So the next time everything looks gray, ask yourself, what inside me is projecting that color in the world? Maybe the storm is out there, yes, but it is your mind that decides if it comes in. And Stoicism gives you the key to that door. Change your eyes, and you'll change everything. Number 2. The domain of emotions is the domain of self. Have you realized how many times you have been dragged by something you have felt, as if you were inside a river that has decided on your own the direction of your life? A look through, a veiled criticism, an unexpected mistake. Just a spark and everything on you catches fire. The mind accelerates. The chest squeezes. The words escape even before you know it. When you see it, it's gone. I said, already cried. You've done what you didn't want. And the worst thing, you've already repented. Stoicism looks at it with a brutal simplicity. It does not say that you should not feel. It says that you need to learn to govern how you feel. Because what differentiates the wise from impulsive is not the absence of emotion, but the choice not to be governed by it. Stoics saw emotions as forces of nature. Anger, for example, is not a demon to be exorcised, but a wild horse that needs break. Fear, when uncontrolled, paralyzes, but when understood, prepares. Sadness can sink but can also purify. No emotion is your enemy, but all can be if you do not take command of your mind. Epictetus, born enslaved and then freed, knew it like no one else. His external reality was harsh, limited, full of humiliations, but he did not see himself as a victim. Because within himself, he was Lord. And that is why he reminds us, no matter what happens to you, it matters how you respond. That is the field where you are king. All that is outside, the speech of the other, the loss, the unforeseen, it is not your territory. But as you deal with it, yes. And that domain is what builds true freedom. Think now of a recent moment when you lost control. Perhaps you shouted at someone you love, acted coldly, yielded to despair. Now think what exactly was out of control. The situation, or your response to the situation? That's the central point. Emotion doesn't need to be denied, but needs to be known. Look into your eyes. When you get angry, instead of blowing up, ask yourself, what's hurting me so that it affects me so much? When you feel overwhelmed by envy, go beyond comparison and question, why does it threaten me? And when you feel sadness, don't run away from it. Sit down with it and ask, what in me is asking attention? This kind of internal dialogue transforms, because you stop being a puppet and become an author. You stop living in the emotional autopilot. And that, though laborious, is liberating, because you're no longer stuck at the tides of everyday life. You become able to act clearly even when everything seems to fall apart. One of the big mistakes we make is to believe that strength is to react quickly, but often the greatest force is to stop. Breath. Choose. The pause is a superpower. The silence between stimulus and response is the space where wisdom lives. There you decide whether to perpetuate the old pattern or create a new path. Mastering your emotions is like learning to walk on embers. You feel the heat. You know that you are stepping on something unstable, but you continue with presence, step by step, without despair. And when you get to the other side, you realize that the fire did not burn you. He forged you. Stoic practice requires daily attention. There are no magic formulas, but there are conscious choices. Throughout the day, you will be provoked, challenged, pushed against your own limits. And each of these situations will be a chance to show yourself who is in control. Because in the end, what Stoicism proposes is not to suffocate your humanity. It is to raise it. It is to teach that you do not need to be hostage to what you feel to be whole. It is possible to feel without drowning. It is possible to suffer without losing yourself. It is possible to love, fear, lament, and yet stand firm. And firmness, in Stoicism, is not rigidity. It is root. It is knowing that even when the wind shakes its branches, you remain whole, because you have learned not to be taken away. You have learned to sustain yourself. You have learned to dominate yourself. Number 3, discipline. is the love you have for yourself. Have you ever noticed the difference between who dreams and who builds? Dreaming is easy. It is light, comfortable, painless. Discipline, on the other hand, is rough. She wakes up early, faces laziness, says no to immediate pleasure. But she has something that the dream does not have: roots. Stoicism teaches us that true self-love does not reveal itself in the sweet words we say to ourselves, but in the silent acts we repeat when no one is looking. Loving is not pampering. It is to mold. It is to surrender every day to a routine that seems harsh, but that in fact it is a sacred act of inner construction. Do you want to change your life? Do you want more peace, clarity, strength? Start with what you repeat. Your habits are the tracks of your destiny, and discipline is the locomotive. Without it, you disperse. With it, you go through any desert. Most people want the reward, but not the effort. They want the transformation, but not the process. They want the fruits of the tree, but they don't want to get dirty planting the seed. Stoic is the one who digs the earth even when the sky is gray. He doesn't expect to be motivated. He acts by choice, not by humor. And that's rare. That's revolutionary. Because the modern world has taught us to follow the impulse. If you are tired, stop. If you are sad, run away. If you are difficult, give up. But the Stoic philosophy blows another melody. Persevere. Keep pace. Follow. Even if the body asks to stop. Even if no one is applauding. Even if everything in you wants to postpone. Because what you repeat is what you become. Imagine a sculptor in front of a crude stone. At each stroke of the chisel, nothing seems to change. But he continues. One day, one trace appears. Then another. Until, finally, the shape arises. It is also with you. Every morning, he lifts up even without will. Every training done with pain. Each reading instead of distraction. Every knot told to addiction. All this is your chisel. And your soul is the sculpture. Discipline is not rigidity. It is raw love. It is you saying to yourself, I deserve the best of me. And so I come back. And so I insist. And so I continue, when it would be so much easier to stop. Seneca understood this when she said that the effort is worth more than perfection, because life doesn't charge you to win every day. It charges you to attend, that you honor the process, that you don't abandon yourself in the days when everything seems lost. The Stoics did not live in isolated temples. They lived among the pains of the world. They were emperors, soldiers, slaves, parents, children. And yet they chose the narrow path of discipline, because they knew that it not only transforms, but reveals. It shows who you really are. So if today you are tired, discouraged, lost, do not wait for a miracle. Start small. Organize your bed. Take a shower with presence. Read 2 pages carefully. Do what seems useless but builds foundation. Discipline dwells in these small daily fidelities. And when the urge comes to stop, remember, what you repeat in silence turns into who you will be aloud. Discipline is your daily prayer for your future. It is your invisible signature in the design of your life. Those who love, care, discipline, and discipline change. Number 4, the other is not your battlefield. How many times have you fought against someone who didn't even know you were at war with you? How many whole conversations have you stopped alone, mentally repeating every word, trying to justify your pain, waiting for an apology that never came? And the worst, how much time have you spent trying to prove to the other that he was wrong, that he hurt you, that he owes you something? There is an exhaustion that does not come from the body, but from the soul. It is born every time you turn someone into an enemy, every time you face the other as a threat, every time you respond to a gesture with the poison of pride. Stoic philosophy at this point offers us a radical liberation. The other is not your battlefield. You're not here to beat people. You're here to beat yourself. Most conflicts are not born of what the other does, but of the way we interpret them. It is our reading of the gesture, of the tone, of the absence, that generates the hurt. And we forget that each person carries a world of his own. See what he can see. He understands what he can understand, and he acts according to the baggage that he has not yet overcome. Heracles, one of the great names of Stoicism, said something that goes through the centuries with surgical precision. All we hear is an opinion, not a fact. All we see is a perspective, not the truth. And what does that mean in practice? That what you feel as an offense may not have been an attack. That the silence of the other may be pain, not contempt. That the cold gesture may be fear, and not disinterest. What we see is always a reflection of where we are internally. When we are hurt, everything hurts. When we are at peace, almost nothing affects us. It does not mean ignoring abuse or accepting what destroys us. It means that before we react, we need to ask, what does this really say about me? About what I have not yet healed? Turning the other into an enemy is easy. It's hard to realize that the wound only hurts because it already existed, and that the other, most of the time, just touched what was exposed. He didn't create the pain. He just revealed where it lives. How many relationships have you lost out of pride? How many harsh words have you said trying to defend yourself? How many times have you withdrawn, not out of self-respect, but out of fear of proving yourself vulnerable? The Stoic does not live trying to prove anything. He lives trying to understand. And, in the face of the incomprehensible, he retreats with dignity, not with resentment. The true power is not in saying the last word, but in not having to say it. It is in coming out of a situation knowing that it acted with integrity, even if the other does not recognize. It is in sleeping in peace because it has not corrupted itself, even if it has been wronged. Not every conflict needs to be faced. Not every injustice needs immediate response. Sometimes the noblest thing is to walk away. Other times, it is to silence. And in many cases, it is just to understand that what the other did speaks much more about it than about you. When you decide not to react, you are not omitting yourself. You are protecting yourself. You are telling yourself that your peace is worth more than an argument, that your energy will not be wasted in wars that do not build you, that your growth requires silence, distance, and a higher look. And when resentment threatens to return, remember that everything you have seen or heard has gone through a filter, yours. And this filter can and must be cleansed with self-knowledge, empathy, and responsibility. Because at the end of the day, the other was never your battlefield. The only war that matters is the one you choose not to feed inside you. Number 5. The weight of expectation steals the lightness of life. Have you ever wanted something so much that even before you got it, you were afraid to lose? Have you ever seen yourself planning every possible scenario of a conversation, a meeting, an opportunity, and then you got frustrated because nothing happened as you imagined? This is the poison of expectation. It disguises itself as hope, but acts as prison. It promises us control but gives us frustration. And more than that, it prevents us from living the present because it imprisons us to the idealized future. The mind, when guided by expectation, does not observe what it is. It requires what it would like it to be. It does not accept the person as he is, but as he should be. He is not content with what he has, because he is always comparing himself to what he wanted to have. And in this silent comparison, he gets sick. He goes away from reality. He loses himself. Musonio Rufo, a Stoic master, teaches us that desire is a source of trouble. Peace is born of wanting less. The Stoic is not the one who does not dream. It is the one who knows that no dream must abduct his presence. He understands that every desire must be tempered with conscience, and every ambition with detachment. You have the right to want more, to seek a new job, a new love, a new life. But with every desire that is born, there is also a possibility of suffering. Because the more you need something to happen to feel good, the more fragile your peace becomes. Stoicism proposes a liberating question. If that doesn't happen, who am I still? And if the answer is someone empty, someone bitter, someone frustrated, then the problem is not the world. It's the dependence you created to feel complete. Expectation turns everything into a test. If someone takes too long to answer, it is disinterest. If one day was good and the next day not so much, it already seems to fail. If you give too much and the other gives too little, it is personal. But not everything is about you. Not everything is proof. Life oscillates. People hesitate. The world does not turn under your conditions. True peace comes from unattended surrender. You do your best, and then you let go. No obsession with the outcome. No immediate reciprocation. When you begin to observe the expectation arising, you realize how subtle it is. It infiltrates innocent thoughts. He will understand, it will change, it will work, it will be as I imagined. But reality does not obey scripts. And everything that is forced to fit into a mental plane breaks in contact with the real. How many times have you been disappointed in someone who didn't even know what you expected of him? How many times have you ruined a moment because he didn't respond to the scene you had created in his mind? How many times have you felt that everything was wrong, when, in fact, it just wasn't the way you wanted it to be? To let go of expectation is not to give up desiring. It is to stop demanding. It is to make room for the unexpected. It is to allow life to surprise, rather than to control each curve. Yes, you may want to, but you can also accept. You can act, and you can trust, and you can work hard, and you can let go too. Those who live hostage to expectation never actually live. But those who learn to desire without clinging find something even rarer than fulfillment. They find the lightness of being whole with or without what they wanted. Number 6. The value you give the world can steal the value you give yourself. Have you ever woken up on a good day, with energy, with confidence, and suddenly, a loose phrase, an indifferent look, or an in-disguise criticism completely changes the course of your day? Have you ever felt as if your value were always in someone's hands, as if it were enough a gesture of approval to feel worthy, and his absence to feel invisible? We live in a time when the measure of personal value has become public, where the silence of another may sound like rejection, where an error is transformed into identity, where the answer that does not come seems to be a sentence. And the most painful of all is how much we allow these things to define us. Stoicism invites a radical return to the center, a place where value is not negotiable, where dignity does not depend on external recognition. An Arian, disciple of Epictetus and responsible for transcribing his teachings, sums it up precisely by saying, "Nothing that is external to you has power over your soul unless you allow it." This statement changes everything. It gives you the responsibility, and with it, freedom. If something shakes you, it is not the fact in itself. It is the internal permission you gave for it to enter. True violence is not in what the world offers you, but in what you accept as truth about you. When you give the world the right to say what it's worth, you come to live as a reflection, an echo of other people's opinions, a mirror that shatters every criticism, that rises to every praisism, that never finds peace because it is always waiting for confirmation. But the Stoic learns to live without mirrors. He anchors himself on something that no one can touch, his conscience. He does not ignore the world, but does not bow to it. He listens, observes, learns, but decides for himself, because he knows that the only reliable ruler is the internal one. The tragedy is that many live trying to fit into patterns that do not fit into their own souls. They force smiles, adopt speeches, perform virtues, all to be accepted. But the price of acceptance is often the loss of authenticity. Value is not what others see. Value is what remains when no one is looking. It is the way you treat yourself in the days when no one praises you. It is the respect you hold for yourself in the moments when everything goes away. If you need to constantly prove your worth, maybe it's because deep down you still don't believe him. And the problem isn't the world not seeing you. It's you still doubting what you see in yourself. Reflect. How many decisions did you make trying to please? How many times did you say yes in fear of being rejected? How many projects did you abandon because there was no support, and not because there was no sense? How many times did you let yourself be shaped by other people's expectations, even when it eroded you? To go back inside is an act of courage, not because it is difficult, but because it is rare. It means to position yourself firmly, even when no one applauds you. It means to say, "It does not serve me," even when it seems advantageous. It means to build a life that the world may not understand, but that your soul recognizes as true. Because in the end, the deepest value that exists is the one that you never had to explain. Number 7. Silence is the testimony of his force. We live in an era where everything needs to be shown. Morning training, professional achievement, love relationship, even sadness needs to be published to look real. It is as if the experience only existed when you get a like, a comment, a record. But Stoicism does not bloom in the window. It grows in silence. Cleanus, successor of Zeno, and one of the pillars of ancient Stoicism, wrote that the virtue does not need spectators. It is enough in its own righteousness. That phrase is an invitation for you to get off the stage and return to the center. Because true growth happens far from applause. When you do something great no one sees, the ego screams. He wants recognition, wants confirmation. But the Stoic spirit learns to nourish itself from the simple act of doing what is right, even if no one knows, even if no one applauds, even if the world passes right. Imagine a gardener taking care of a rare plant on top of a mountain, without witnesses, without prestige. He comes back every day, watering, pruning, protecting, and one day, it blooms. There is no crowd, there is no feast. Only he, the mountain, and the silent blooming of something that grew because he was cared for with love and constancy. That is what the Stoic seeks. Internal coherence, not external applause. How many times have you stopped doing something noble because no one would know? How many good deeds did you cancel because they would not give visibility? How many times did you retreat before what was just because there was no audience? The ego loves the stage, but the soul finds peace in the bastinator. Silence reveals. When you stop justifying everything, explaining every decision, screaming your truth to everyone, something in you strengthens. Because what is solid does not need to be defended all the time. It simply is. And more, in the silence you hear yourself. You can see what you're really feeling, what you're looking for, what you're avoiding. When you shut up on the outside, you hear what you're screaming on the inside. Stoicism values this space. A space without noise, without performance, where you are only you, with your failures and achievements, with your shadow and your light. That is where self-control is built. Not in the spotlight, but in the little invisible decisions. Not said, not reacted, not posted. To practice silence is also an act of humility. It is to recognize that you do not need to win every discussion, do not need to correct all injustice, do not need to explain yourself all the time. Sometimes the wisest answer is not to answer. Sometimes the strongest gesture is not to act. But it takes strength because the ego wants noise. He wants to be right. He wants to be understood. He wants to be seen. Silence is against the ego, and that's why it's so transformative. Try this. Throughout the day, Choose to shut up in front of what provokes you. Observe without judging. Do the right thing without announcing. When someone provokes you, choose peace. When someone praises you, thank them without exalting yourself. When in doubt, listen more than you speak. You don't need to be an open book to the world. It needs to be a book that you read calmly, that you understand in depth, a book that only you need to understand. I sincerely hope that this message has been helpful. I sincerely want to congratulate you for coming this far and completing the video. That means that you want to improve as a person. If you liked the video, leave your comment. If you don't know what to say, comment gratitude, then I'll know that you've watched until the end. If you're not already on the channel, what are you waiting for? Sign up now and join us. Stoicism is full of teachings like this, which are applicable to our everyday life. Therefore, I encourage you to continue learning about this philosophy. I leave here 2 videos full of Stoic wisdom, so you can continue learning. Until next,